He smiled like he knew I was alone, and that terrified me. Was a little kid, about 10 or 11 years old, and I stayed home alone after school. I was doing my homework upstairs when someone rang the doorbell. Sometimes a friend from the next street would come to me, so I ran downstairs, thinking it was her. There was a window above our door, and it was very high, so I could usually stand at the top of the stairs and look through it to see who was standing at the door, right on top of my head. This time, a man was just looking out the window. The window was 2 meters off the ground, and he was directly in front of it. He had a very round face, I remember, and a big smile. It was something out of a horror movie. Then my cat, whom I always call a slut because he's so friendly lol, started growling on him. My kitten was on the landing with me. He sees me on the landing and just says, "Hi, I came to check if you have any pests. Could you let me in?" I duck down, and he says, "I saw you. I know your parents aren't home, but I need to get in." I can still hear his voice clearly. Terrified, I ran down the stairs to the kitchen to get my phone. He keeps asking me to open the door. Finally, I tell him something like, "No, you'll have to come back another time." He doesn't take no for an answer and continues to insist. Then I tell him that I'm going to call the police. All politeness disappears. He says something about me being rude and hindering him from doing his job. I keep repeating that I'm going to call the police, and eventually he just starts yelling at me and swearing. Finally, he slams his hand on the door with all his might. I start to dial the number, and he runs away, calling me a bitch. I didn't call the police and sat at the front door until my parents returned home. I didn't even know what bitch meant. I didn't tell them because I thought I'd be in trouble. He's definitely not as scary as the others, but I remember him so clearly. He had a strange smile, a perfectly round head, and he was so tall. I was very small when I was a kid. An ordinary evening until it got scary. This is the late 80s, early 90s. I was around 6 to 7 years old. I am at home with my sister, who was 14 to 15 at the time. We grew up in a small Texas town. Everyone knows everybody. We are home alone this particular night, and my folks let my sister babysit me frequently. We always got along due to our age gap. Anyway, it is about 8 p.m. in the winter. Desserts get pretty damn cold, so it is dark, and we are in the common room since that is where the TV was. Watching 60 Minutes or 48 Hours or Hard Copy or some shit, those 1-hour news pieces on CBS that chronicle large crimes in depth. Trafficking, murders, kidnappings, and the like. Basically a gritty Lifetime special. This one was a typical story. Guy next door that was quiet went on a rampage in his next door neighbor's house, mutilating them and kidnapping their young daughter. Well, the thing about our house common room is the door leading to the backyard was a large glass door on a wall of floor-to-ceiling windows. Nothing but blackness beyond it unless you have the back light on. We did not. The front door is on the other side of the room with a small entryway. This is a solid door, so you cannot see what is beyond it, with a glass storm door on the outside of it. About 45 minutes into the show, they are talking about the ongoing manhunt for this crazy guy, and bam bam bam, front door bangs like crazy. We jump the fuck up and scream like banshees. Dead silence now. The only lights on in the house are the kitchen down the hall from the common room we were in and the light from the TV. We start thinking something on the porch. We had some planters, and a rocking chair out there had simply blown against the door. This was West Texas. Crazy strong winds out that way. Well, a minute or two of silence and us holding each other post-adrenaline overdose passes. Just when we are about to declare everything is safe, we hear the storm door on the outside of our front door close. Fuck. Someone had to have opened that door to be able to bang on the front door like that. Shit. We are both frozen in the middle of the room on the floor where we had been watching TV. My sister crawls over to the TV and turns it off. It was an old TV, so you had to turn that metal dial to switch it off, which it does with a mildly loud thunk. Now it is just us in a room dimly lit by the kitchen light down the hall. My sister crawls over to the TV and turns it off. It was an old TV, so you had to turn that metal dial to switch it off, which it does with a mildly loud thunk. Now it is just us in a room dimly lit by the kitchen light down the hall. I do not remember how much time passed with my frozen and my sister still crouched by the now off TV, but we kept making eye contact, then looking at the front door. I remember this part vividly. I am on my knees sitting on my feet and I turn around to look at the back wall of windows and glass door. We hear and I see the back door knob turn. It was locked on the knob, but not deadbolted. It rattles slightly as if someone is gently trying the handle. Neither of us make a sound, just held breath. Then bam 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 loud as all hell someone is trying to force the door open, just jerking it back and forth. The whole wall of windows is vibrating violently and I can see with each jerk of the door how my slight reflection gets fuzzy, then clear, then fuzzy. My sister flips her shit and screams bloody murder. I am still frozen on the floor. She gets up and basically drags me into her bedroom, slams the door, throws her mattress and anything she can in front of her door. Thankfully, she had remembered the phone, one of those ungodly heavy beige plastic long metal antenna portable phones. We still had to direct dial the sheriff there and in her panic didn't remember the number. She just hit redial on the phone. It was one of her friends and she tells them in broken gasps that someone is trying to get into our house and needs to get there right fucking now. The profanity sticks out here more than anything else. Who knows? Young brain. I am curled up on the floor and cannot stop shaking. We don't hear anything else until we see the headlights of my sister's friend and her parents driving up to the house. We never did find out who was at the door or why. There were no signs of anything happening but a couple of scuff marks on the bottom of the back door, that we could not remember if they were there beforehand or not. Nothing like that has happened to me or her since, but for damn sure we never forget to lock a door after that. What if you know something you can't explain? My mom raised me not to believe in any of this. There are no ghosts, no angels, no paranormal activities, no one has ESP. There is no woo in the world, but ... When I was 11 or 12, my paternal grandfather went to the hospital for a minor heart surgery. They assured me he'd be fine. He went through the surgery, woke up, everything was fine. I had no reason to believe anything would happen to him. The next morning, I was in school, and it was about 7:30 a.m. I suddenly felt as if I had to throw up, not nauseous, not sick, but I absolutely knew that I was going to vomit. I had no time to tell my teacher. I just got out of my seat and ran to the bathroom. After I threw up, I went to the office, told the secretary that I had been sick, and asked her to call my mom to come and get me. Once mom came and got me, she was driving me home, and she said, "Well, I was going to wait until you got out of school, but since this happened, I might as well tell you now." And I interrupted her and said, "Don't bother, I already know. It wasn't me talking." It was like I was watching a conversation between two people, and I couldn't say anything. I could think my own thoughts, but couldn't voice them. So, as this conversation continues, I'm getting mad, thinking things like, "What do you know? You don't know what she's going to say. Let her talk ... double quotes." Mom was a bit irritated and said, "You can't know. They called after you went to school." I said, "You don't have to tell me. I already know by now." Mom sounds mad, and she said, "Cut it out. I need to tell you." And I interrupted her again and said, "It's okay. I already know that Granddad is dead." And me internally screamed, "What?" Mom jerked the wheel and almost drove the car into the ditch, screaming, "You can't know that." And I just shrugged and looked out the window. That wasn't me either. I was crying inside. The voice felt nothing, except I could feel a little frustration from it. It turns out my granddad had died at 5 a.m., and my aunt and uncle called to tell her at about the time that I threw up. I do not feel like I had a dream of my granddad's ghost, and I have no idea who was talking for me. Years later, I tried to ask her questions about it, and she did not want to talk about it. It was like pulling teeth, but she finally admitted that she remembered the conversation. She did say one thing that stuck out, and was angry when she said it. Your grandma knew things too. Her mother. I tried to ask her what that meant. What kinds of things did grandma know? But she told me the conversation was done. Now, I'm not sure what I believe. There is no woo in the world, but I know what happened. So maybe there's a little woo.